lots of seats.
I think you're fine. Yeah.
Is it okay if I? Yeah. Well, I mean, I can always pull up another chair.
Mark? I am not presenting today, so you can worry.
Don't oh, you're not. You're just playing on the computer, right?
Mike's
Pulling them up.
Looking for changes.
Okay, well let's get started. Looks like everybody's settling in, and I'd like to welcome you all to the 2014 Summer Series, Sustainable and Resilient Communities, How Do We Build Resilient Cities? I know I look exactly like Peter Meissen, but I'm really not. Peter's enjoying a well-deserved vacation this week in Canada. I've got a background in water and currently operate Neldon Strategies, which is a public policy firm, and also a nonprofit called Open Oceans Global. And Peter asked me to moderate tonight. And for those of you who are new to the series and to this room, our sponsor is the Global Energy Network Institute, a nonprofit research and education organization founded in 1991. It's based on the thinking of visionary engineer Buckminster Fuller, and asks the question, how do we make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest time? And you're in the World Resources Simulation Center, which is kind of, I think, one of its kind in San Diego, if not broader than that. And it's the center's hosting tonight's event, as you can tell, and it's operated by the Global Energy Network Institute. And today we're going to try to visualize past trends, how did we get here, future options, how can we make informed choices quicker, and we're going to talk about waste. And so what kind of resiliency can we have around waste? How do we move towards zero waste? And how could we approach putting zero trash in our landfills? Our 4 students are going to make presentations of 15 minutes each. We have the writer Jacqueline, Fernando, Paula, and Patrick. And I just learned that Paula is guiding me on how to run this meeting tonight, so I appreciate that, since I haven't done it before. And we're also fortunate to have with us Neil Moore, who's the general manager of Republic Services, one of the largest waste management firms in the region and the state and nationally, I guess, Neil, right? He's going to be our subject matter expert, and he's also the chair of the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce's Energy and Water Committee, and he'll be helping to answer questions and provide perspective. Just a member of our audience who also we're happy to have here is Ken Prue, who's the recycling program manager for the city of San Diego, and it'd be helpful to have him here to answer questions too. Now, we'll take some questions during the presentations, but in the interest of getting through the agenda, I would ask that those be short and please keep them on subject. We hope to have more time in the end for questions. And I want to not forget to thank our partners, the United Nations Association, the San Diego World Affairs Council, the Equinox Center, and San Diego State's Geography Department. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our first presenter, Fernando, who will introduce himself and give us a little background and do his presentation.
Okay, most of the people here in this room probably know me because it's my 3rd presentation, my last one. So, but I'm going to introduce myself again. My name is Fernando. I'm from Brazil. In the United States, I'm studying at Missouri Science Technology University, in one city that is kind of 2 hours from St. Louis. And I'm working here for the summer, and we are trying to build a big picture about San Diego, how to make the city more resilient, and how to move forward in this direction, a better city for everybody, a sustainable city based in renewable resource and all this stuff. With me tonight, we're going to have Jacqueline, that is from Brazil, my colleague, Paula from South Korea, and Patrick from Hong Kong, China. And I hope you guys enjoy the presentation, and I'd like to try to provide the best information that I could research about this thing. Well, I forgot to change this. We are not trying to design here. We treat my part and the other guys. We are going to try to provide some background information and try to educate, because this section and this this subject has been studied a lot, and we've got a lot of good material about this. And I'm going to start my presentation, talk a little bit about general aspects and how can we understand more this question, how can we understand the way that we consume, how can we move toward another direction, because this direction that the United States and most of the richest countries and even the poorest countries too are going is not good for the planet, is not sustainable, and we are consuming too much, we are wasting too much, and in the end the end is the landfill, but the landfill sometimes cannot handle all this stuff. And after this, Jacqueline is going to address more the stuff related with United States and how this problem could be centralized and focus more, and this section is going to focus more on United States. And Paula is going to provide more information about San Diego and what San Diego is doing, on what's the position of San Diego right now. And Patrick is going to talk about wastewater system that is very, very important in this scenario too. Well, I'm going to start with some quick facts about our world. We've got approximately 7 billion people. It's a little bit more than this, but it's just for have a picture. 2.6 trillion of trash generated per year, which is a huge amount, especially if you compare with the Empire State Building, 7,000 Empire State Building of trash every year, the weight, and this is a huge amount. And this makes us think a little bit about the way we consume. And as we move forward in this presentation, I would like to make some points. Like, for example, how can we are behaving like as a consumer, you know? Because sometimes I was in the market, and this is kind of new for me, and I was trying to buy a gallon of orange juice, for example, and I saw some signs say that if you buy 2 of them, you're gonna spend like $4 instead of 6 or whatever. And even I don't need this. I will not consume like 2 gallons of orange juice, but I think, oh, come on, I think it's worth, because I'm gonna save some money, and this is good because I can hang out with my friends in the weekend. But the point here is that, and I need this amount of orange juice, and I'm doing the right thing here, you know. And this is pretty much about these pictures, and I think these pictures are very good in proving this point.
What about families that, big families can easily use that?
Yeah, big families can use, but what we can see in the richest countries and around the world is that even in my country is that the number of children that the families has been not producing, has been decreasing. So it's kind of it's expected that we have to adjust our manners and our behavior, especially because if you compare, for example, United States in the 60s or 70s with nowadays, you're going to realize that if we increase at the rate that we used to increase the population in the beginning of the century or at the 50s, we're going to have like much more people here. We've got 300 million people here, and it's very hard to provide health insurance for everybody, food security, and everything. It's a challenge. And as we move forward around solid waste, we have to talk about some important things here and issues that relate with this specific area. So what can I say about this? Surface and groundwater pollution, it's a big issue, but not here in the United States, especially here in San Diego. I visit the Miramar landfill, and the guys are doing a good job here. The trash is not infiltrating the groundwater. At least it's what we saw there. And they have some good things about methane capture, and they are doing a good job in this position. But still, we've got a lot of things, a lot of nuisance related with landfills and about solid waste. So the odor is like, it's hard to breathe. The first time that I went to one landfill in my country, And I was like, it's disgusting. And I said, oh, come on, I cannot handle this. And after 15 minutes, okay, it's like, I can accept this, yeah. But I mean, it's hard to breathe. And the dust, especially here in San Diego, because next to the landfill, Miramar landfill, we've got a marine base, air base, so we have to take care about dust. So the guys using water, recycled water to control the dust there. And I saw everything because the guy from Jose Ines, he made a kind of tour around the landfill, and I saw pretty much everything about the landfill. The birds, another concern, because the birds can enter in the turbines, and we have to control the birds. And but it's not all the birds, because it's just the birds that fly very high, because the crows and the ravens, they doesn't represent menace in this picture. So leachate generation. Leachate is a kind of it's the liquid generated by the trash. Like it's a black liquid, and it has the potential to be a very strong pollutant. So it's another thing that we have to talk about and to address here. Air pollution. I think if you guys, some guys went here to my presentation about energy, and air pollution is everything. We could relate air pollution with health problems and with a sort of bad effects to our health. And if you should think about one problem here, I could say that air pollution is one of the biggest ones. I can say that all these problems are important, and we should address everyone. I can talk about this like for 20 minutes, but it's not the scope here of the process. So I have to move forward. We came to this pyramid that say that the environmental hierarchy for solid waste management. Okay, it's a kind of kids garden here. So it's kind of reduce, reuse, and recycle. Yeah, but now we've got technology to move a little bit forward this. We have compostation. We have we can recover part of the energy with some information, with some techniques that we've got nowadays to transform the waste into energy. So it's a kind of new thing. The technology is still in development. Of course, that we've got like 86 waste to energy power plants in the United States, and we could improve more, as you guys could see in the next few slides. But it's an area that we have to work more, because the energy is still it's so expensive, and maybe with technology and maybe with some studies in this area we could move forward in this direction too. So what's in the global garbage can? And this is a good point, because if you guys can notice here, the organic matter, it's like represents 46% of the amount of trash. So, but what I would like to emphasize here is that in US, the retail loss, it's kind of this amount of food, it's like 10%. And the amount of the consumer are losing in this process is like 21%. So I think we should stop and think what we are buying and how can we live with this amount of trash. Because we have a strong thing here to think. Once all this trash goes to the landfill, and consequently will be treated or not. And this is a kind of thing that I look at the landfill when I visit there, because if you don't put your cardboards or your aluminum or everything that you've got that should be recycled in the right spot, won't be recycled at the landfill. So what I saw there, it was like I saw a lot of cardboard, I saw aluminum, because it was mixed in the normal trash, and that doesn't have how to separate. We don't have this technology to separate. Here in San Diego, there are some initiatives in the world, like for example, in some countries in Europe, people separate the trash in the orange bags or blue bags, and the machine does the process to say, oh, blue bag represents, I don't know, glass, or orange bag represents, I don't know, food waste, and so goes on. So, but what's the worst scenario? How United States are compared with the rest of the world? Okay, in this graph here, you guys can notice that as long as the graph gets darker, or the red gets darker, you guys can see that the amount of trash generated by person per day. So United States is here, and Canada is over there, and you guys can notice that the amount of trash that we are generating here, it's like it's so big that we cannot count. But I'm gonna try to translate this in real numbers, and this is my next slide. Because into the trash, according with the USDA, we've got all this amount of food per month, one family of 4 people in America. So what we have here is that we've got a fresh fruit and vegetables, 24 pounds per month. We've got a processed fruit and vegetables, which is 10.5 pounds per month. Fluid milk, 22 pounds per month. Anyway, the point here is we are wasting a lot of food. And in the end of the month, I can say that according with the USDA, we are wasting an average of 122 pounds. Okay, so what this amount of food represents for United States as a nation? Because we have to think that every time that we are throwing something out, we are throwing a lot of things together. Because, for example, if I say that the food waste could save 25% of all fresh water used in the United States. So it's a big number, especially here in California, that we've got a serious trouble regarding water and the water issues. And it's a thing that we have to consider in this equation because it's too much water. And we have to save water for the future, especially here. And this represents also 160 billion per year. And only in the households, it's kind of $40 billion. So it's a big deal. And another thing that I would like to highlight here is that 33 million tons of landfill space. And here in San Diego, the landfill is projected to work until 2025. But with the recent techniques and the Marine gave a little bit more of land to the landfills, everybody expected that could work until 2035 or 2040 or something like that. But it's still, after this, what are you gonna do with our trash? Where should we put our trash? In the beginning, we put our trash in the Balboa Park, and then we move it to the Miramar. That it's like 80% of the trash nowadays go to Miramar landfill.
No, we should compost our trash and put it in our gardens, in the backyards,
Yeah.
and grow our own food. It struck me that this organic, the 46%, one of the things that's happening in our food supply is that our food has less and less nutrients, and one of the because we're depleting the soils, but those nutrients can be replenished from that organic matter, but it's not going back into the soil. Apparently, it's going to the landfills, which is a big mistake. So if we can just compost all our wasted food, put it in your backyard, compost it, put it in your garden, grow your own food.
Yeah, but
Save a lot
in
of
this
time.
scenario, San Diego is doing well because we've got we produce here mulch and compost, and you can take for free if you go to the landfill. So it's like they are making this. The only product that they make that you have to buy is wood chips, and it's like $18 for.
Yeah, but it's an extra trip. You go from the restaurant or from to the landfill, and then you have to go to the landfill. It'd be better to just do it in your neighborhood.
Yeah. But Jacqueline is going to provide some good information about how compost is in the United States at this moment. So the point here is food waste represents a strong menace to the American dream because we are wasting resource, we are wasting money in here, and we've got a lot of people under the poverty line here. I know that is a subject nobody likes to talk, inequality and all this stuff, but we have to bring this subject to the table, and we have to discuss often with our people because we've got a lot of people here that need this food that we are wasting.
Okay, comment? When I was in Brazil back in the late 70s, I was very impressed because I don't like churrasco, I don't like beef that much. But on the Via Dutra, I don't remember the name of it, I think it was called Molino, there was a fast food place where everything was made of corn. The shakes tasted sweet, they had burgers made of corn. You know more about that, you're Brazilian. And that would do very well in California and be a great natural resource because it's vegetable based. It uses a lot less. What's the name of it? It's Molino, right?
Molina.
Molino is some sort of a chain all along the Via Dutra going from Rio to Sao Paulo. The buses used to stop there going to Rio.
Oh, really? I have to stop and think, but right now I don't have
It's
it.
really fast food.
Let's not get too sidetracked on this. Save those good comments for the end because we need these guys to get through their presentations. Molina, we'll find out.
So, what we have to try to decrease the situation, to try to provide a better future in this scenario, since the amount of trash has been increased, and we have to address this problem somehow. And nowadays we've got technology for this. It's expensive, yeah. But I think in near future maybe we're gonna have a better picture about this. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that we can convert the chemical energy stored in the food and the residues that goes to the landfills into energy. And this process, it's very good for three reasons mainly. It's renewable because the amount of trash that we generate is it's huge. It's reduced the carbon emission and reduce the methane generation from landfills. And this is a very good point because methane is one of the strongest actors when we talk about climate change. It has the potential to I forgot the word. Methane has the potential to
Same porches.
yeah.
What is,
It's greenhouse gas.
Yeah, 20, yeah. Oh, we found some information about 20 times or 30
Yeah,
times.
it's 22 times worse
Yeah,
than
yeah.
carbon
CO2.
dioxide.
So it's a very big deal. Here's why, guys. I really forgot what to say. I didn't know
Yeah.
how to say even Portuguese. And
By the way, it's odorless. They put captan in it to make it smell skunk oil. That thing has no odor.
yeah, and here in San Diego, in the Miramar landfill, like we burn the excess of methane that we burn here, the efficiency it's 99%. But the problem is not the methane here because we are emitting CO2 in this process. So still, it's a very big deal here, and the methane is one of the main actors in regarding climate change. So what's the U.S. situation?
I heard, I don't know, about 2 years ago, there was a guy on the radio one day with 5 master's degrees, astrology, all kinds of. He said, I would only be worried about the methane gas from the cows.
Yeah.
He said that, but he said, you know something, in the last several years, we have no increase in methane gas from cows. Yet that's the biggest methane gas producer of the cows.
Yeah, but it's complicated because, for example, in my country, the number of the cattle numbers it's pretty much the same of the population. We've got like 200 million cattle in Brazil, and it's a huge population, and they produce a lot of methane in the digestive
Right.
process, and still. It's one area regarding climate change that we have been studied, but it's like we need more information and to act more and to have better information in order to make a good statement to say, oh, this is big, you know. And the U.S. situation regarding waste to energy is that we've got 86 facilities here, which produce like almost 2,800 megawatts per year. But what is curious is that no new plants have been built in the U.S. since 1995. Why? I really don't know. If someone knows here, I'd like to know. Maybe the price.
Well, that's price. Price
Yeah.
is it, and it's expensive because it's not very efficient.
Why don't we ask our subject matter expert here about that? Neil, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure, I do. Why we haven't is it's very expensive. And what happens is the environmental community has really stepped up and taken a stand that they don't want to see the incineration process because those plants are very expensive to build. And what happens is once you build that plant, you need to feed it. And it somewhat is considered a disincentive to reduce and reuse and recycle waste streams. And that's why, so I think what you're going to see is, I think you're on the right track on some of this, targeting the organics. I think you're going to see smaller projects, maybe not as small as backyard projects, but there's going to be a move to try to manage the organics separately to produce energy from in a more captive area. But I think that's one of the things that there's research now looking at waste to energy, but it's going to be, rather than these big, what are called mass burn, you're going to see more gasification projects where you gasify, capture the gas off them and convert that to a compressed natural gas or natural gas.
Any other perspectives you had on the presentations you'd like to share before we move to the next one?
I think he's on target. That we are looking at organics. Ken can agree with that. We have to do a better job of managing organics if we really want to see those numbers of generation go down. That's a good target.
Let's give Fernando a big hand. Good job.
Okay, now this is the interactive part of our presentation where everybody who's sitting at a computer on the desk needs to use the right arrow key and go down 12 slides. Or you can use the PowerPoint. There you go. So add 12 to the number that is at your desk.
And while everybody's doing that, some of our partners came in today. We have David Edick, Rita Lim from the San Diego World Affairs Council. Welcome, you guys.
Fernando.
All right, so it looks like everybody's catching up.
What percentage of, I think you might have said this, I missed it, but what percentage of the landfill emission methane escapes and what percentage are you actually?
Right now, I mean, because it's complicated because like the landfill here in San Diego is composed has three main areas. Two of these areas were disabled, so we've got only one working, and the other two areas we try to capture the methane that has been produced by the earth, because we just put some kind of cover into this trash, and we try to drain the methane. But of course, the methane it's not completely drained by this process. So, but the methane produced and the methane that we could handle, we have efficiency of 99%, and yeah, it's a big efficiency. That's what they told me. I'm just replying to numbers.
So basically, if they set it up, none of the methane is going to escape, or basically 1%.
Yes, basically, but it's not the reality, because we've got a methane that we don't have like a sort of things that are sort of a lot of wells everywhere to drain this methane. So it's hard to fight, because in the past we used some bad techniques, and we didn't have techniques for this, but nowadays we are trying to move toward this, but it's hard. It's hard.
And how does San Diego's waste compare with the rest of the country?
The rest of the country, I think Paulo has a graph about how San Diego waste compares to California with the other counties, and you guys probably going to see it in the next time after this presentation. After this,
Is there anybody in the world doing a better job on this?
well, we've got, like I said, I think in Netherlands they have this system that they are doing very well. Netherlands, yeah, and let me see. Yeah, I think Netherlands it's a good example in this scenario.
But you're talking about incineration.
Yeah.
So you consider incineration waste to energy acceptable?
It's hard because we are generating CO2, but I actually I don't have information to say, oh yeah, a coal-fired power plant or a natural gas power plant emit more than this. It's hard, but we have to take care about this. So it's hard to say. It's hard. I don't have an answer for this, really.
Do you have any thoughts on any of those subjects?
Yes, I'd like to say something about that, because I have a company that we do advanced recycling. We use technologies that have been proven throughout Europe, and we also use gasification. And part of the problem is, and we've even had conversations here in San Diego, is that, you know, it's the chicken and the egg thing, right? Everybody wants the improvement, but where is it proven, right? So we are actually also working on a contract in Mexico, in Playa del Carmen, and I just say hallelujah to certain areas that recognize that there are some better solutions of the aggregation of some awesome technologies that are proven, and I just think it's I'm just cheering them on that they will take that level of risk, right? And we have even proposed in Maui to do a facility, and there's politics involved in a lot of this. Okay, you just have to just know that that's just part of it. But I would just say yes, there are way better improvements, and I think waste to energy was awesome because it was way better than just burning, just do a mass incineration. Now you can capture some things and create electricity, but you know, it hasn't been done, like you said, in 20 years or whatever. So now we have huge advancements out there. So
I'd like to move on. Hold your questions. We've got lots of, we're going to have time at the end, but I want to let the folks get through their presentations. And now Jacqueline's going to take the stage.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacqueline. I'm from Brazil also. My major is environmental engineer. Here in the United States, I'm studying in Tennessee. So I'm going to talk about the solid waste and emissions. But I'd like to say I have some video from Fernando because he forgot the video. It's about the wasteful.
I'm sorry.
It's like a short video. It's interesting.
It is an understatement to say that food waste is a problem in the United States. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, every year more than 34 million tons of food waste was generated, making food waste the single largest component of solid waste reaching landfills. What's more, on a daily basis, Americans waste enough food to fill the Rose Bowl, which is the size of a football stadium in the state of California.
It's terrible. I mean, we're smart enough to figure out how not to waste so much food when people are going hungry all over the world.
On an average, an American family wastes about $500 worth of food a year, and that discarded food translates into increased pollution. Though restaurants are among the worst offenders, throwing away vast amounts of food as waste from preparation and tossing out plates full of uneaten food from customers. The result of the American obsession with huge portion sizes that are simply too large for most people to eat.
Even with the staggering statistics, it appears in America food waste continues to grow, even while millions of Americans remain homeless and without food.
According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, in 2012, 1 in 6 Americans will go to bed hungry every night, and more than 50 million Americans live in what's referred to as a food insecure household. A government report showed 15% of Americans have trouble putting food on the table, a record high, something many Americans say needs to change.
You know, common folks that just care about the homeless, you know, anyone that has compassion, just, you know, say, hey, where can I, you know, go to the grocery store, go to a produce stand, whatever you can do that's most local, and spread it out.
Although President Obama called the figures unsettling, lawmakers have yet to come up with a solution to end hunger and food waste. Ashante Hathaway, Press TV, Washington.
It's a huge problem with food. So I don't know if Fernando will have something about this.
I think it's pretty much what we discussed here, and it's a big picture of the problem and the poverty and how inequality and everything that I said that we have to discuss more because it's the challenge of the century.
Let's go start. The first slide, we can see some pictures about how the trash and how the trash is disposed to the street or e-waste or some burn time. I got some definition about municipal solid waste. municipal solid waste consists of everyday items you use and then throw away. I got some example here, and this come from our homes, school, business, and you should care about this. Because the solid waste, if you don't care about this and just put in the wrong place or something like that, it should be cause risk to human health and the environment. So the first graph shows the generation rates in the United States between this period, like 15 years ago. The waste generation increased with population expansion and economic development. This graph is a little bit difficult to understand the first time, but the right side is a per capita generation, pounds person per day. So this is the orange line. And the left side is the total municipal solid waste. We can see the population increase with the amount of the municipal solid waste also. The second graph is about Fernando shows before something like that, but this is more separated by category. So it's pretty much the same, but I can see here like wood and some stuff over here. It should be recycling, and another one's food waste in year 20s should be composting. It's a good idea for this. So we got a huge number here about e-waste. It's a problem nowadays because we know the technology is going very fast, and just a small number, like 27% about this number compared is going like recycle. It's a big difference. You should take opposite, do you know, like, I think so. And the next one is a recycle rates, but this is per category, and I want to pay attention for this graph because the batteries is doing well because it's got almost 100%. You should care and try to make this another stuff to the same way. I don't have exactly answer like how to do this, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing to think. And you got a great number here about recycle and composting. It prevents almost 87 million tons of material to dispose in the landfills or some stuff, something like that, in 2012. And this is not another one. It's about just the timeline, decomposition of materials. So you must care about this because if you don't separate the trash, like these things should be recycled. If you go to the landfill, you cannot to separate over there. You have to separate it in our house. And another point here is a plastic bag. Every day, every single day, went to the supermarket shopping and just take the plastic bags anyway. And I know some people use for push the trash, but you have to do something about this. We know some cities in California start to do something for this, but San Diego, you need to look for this. And the next one is about recycling rates. You have like some benefits of recycling, like conserve resources, reducing pollution, energy savings, economic benefits, cost savings. This is another graphic. You have to pay attention for the sides because there are two different things to look in here. So the right side is about the percent of generation recycled, and the left side is a total municipal solid waste recycling. So it's a big number, but the percent is very small from like about recycle. When you look like this number, we see this number like the screen number 6, like I said this before, which was the same number, but it look bigger, but it's not bigger in comparison like the percent. Another thing we can do is composting. From EPA, we got this information. In average, 1.3 tons of food just go to the go away. This information is per day. It's a month if you think about this. And just 3% of food scraps in the United States are composted. It's a small number, and you should practice more composting in your houses. Because if you practice composting, it will be reduce the amount of waste each of us sends to the landfill. And to make the composting, you just need the organic material, water, and some good space. And you'll be good if you have these stocks. The type of the compost depends on the material and the amount of the material also. There are some things to think about this. The next one is about the methane emission by source. We can see the waste management is contribute with 29%. It's a big number in comparison to other ones. So when organic waste decomposes in landfills and when controlled dumps, it produces methane, one of the major greenhouse gases contributing to the climate change. And move the next screen about greenhouse gas. I got this table to make the comparison about the carbon dioxide, methane, and another gas. So my point here is show the how long time the methane is make the comparison with between carbon dioxide and methane. I got this information. I saw some different information. I'm sorry about that. I heard like 22%, but I got like 21, 28, and the last one I got in the put is 28. I think it's something like close to between like 20 and 30%. Methane is more like worse than carbon dioxide. For the next one, the last one is approach about the biomass resource of the United States, methane emissions from landfills. We can see this graphic. California is doing well. We can compare this graphic with the Fernando shows the last graphic about the energy in the United States. California is great in comparison to another places in the United States, like if you look for the legend here. That's it.
All right. Let's thank Jacqueline very much. Coming from Brazil and speaking Portuguese and translating into English.
One question before over here first.
Yeah, has anybody of the speakers looked up the Army has a website. The generals determined in 2001 if we don't have an environment, we have nothing to defend. And then they went through all these strategies to make it simple, and they came out with a net zero waste policy. And then what they call that is all waste should be resource recovered or composted. All water should be used sustainable, and all energy should be used renewable. And the life cycle assessment shows this to be the best business case. So the question becomes, and the Army's going for it. I know the cities are slow to act. What's holding back the city municipalities from doing the best business case to create new jobs, knowing that resource recovery is 16 to 1 paying jobs versus throwing things away. Have you guys looked at any of that?
Paul is going to talk about something about sewers, right or no? I'm sorry. Yeah.
But I don't know what's holding their back
Yeah.
for the plan.
Yeah.
It's a great plan.
We've got a lot of
Can I make
variables.
a comment about that?
Right here first and then next.
I'm looking at this slide here, and our city here has grown since 1960, 140%. Has the increase in solid waste gone up commensurate with that amount, or is it less? You understand my question? Our population has gone up 140% in the last 50 years.
Yeah.
The city. So the question is that growth 140% over that period of time?
Yeah.
So it hasn't changed what you're saying?
No, you didn't look at the city of San Diego numbers,
Yeah,
though,
no,
right?
it's about
This
the
is
United
USA
States.
numbers.
Yeah, it's
First numbers we heard were sort of global, and you saw the difference in the waste generation from global to what in the U.S. And then, but we haven't heard yet about local data. Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment about his comment. There's an article by Steve Greenhut in Thursday, July 24th. Utilities trump military on renewable. It seems the utilities just beat the military in court about renewables on military bases in the United States. Nasty article about the money and the networks, which, as we all know, is what makes things tick. But I have a question. So you might want to look at this article. I think John Paul has a copy of it on the web. There's a woman named Miriam Kastner. She's sort of the methane expert at Scripps. And she gave a talk near the end of the quarter at UCSD. And I always had heard that methane coming out of the oozes under the ocean would be a big problem. You know, not just the ooze under the ocean, but the tundra as it warms up. But she gave a very interesting talk, and you might look at her website, Miriam Kastner. She's an Israeli-American famous scientist there. And she concludes it might be an acute problem here and there, but it won't be as big a global problem as CO2, unless I misunderstood her. I was just surprised by that comment, and I don't know if anyone else has an answer to that question. She claims the research she does, if she's their expert, is that methane coming from either the oozes under the ocean or the tundra as it warms up will not be the big problem. It'll still be CO2 and, amazingly, water vapor. That was the conclusion I remember. I'm just curious if you know about that.
So this is one scientist in a vast array of scientists that are talking about methane, and they're talking about global warming and climate change and the methane generated by melting tundra or other hydrocarbons under the ocean. This is not really pertinent to waste management that we as we can control it on in our own waste stream. But that's something that we'll have to look at it at a later date in one of the other.
She concludes it's not that big a problem.
Right.
CO2 is
So
water
we'll get back to that.
Interesting topic.
I got one.
Okay, thank you.
I was wondering, the composting, does that produce methane also, or not? Just CO2?
Anybody have the answer to that?
What was the question?
I'm pretty sure it does.
Does composting create
I would think it would.
carbon
Methane.
emissions?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yes, it has methane. And the problem is if we're putting it at a landfill for free, but it basically is sitting there, it's still polluting.
Yeah, the composting is part of the natural carbon cycle of growing things and them, being eaten or rotting on the earth. So that carbon cycle goes up and down every year with the cycle of the seasons in the northern hemisphere. So if you look at a carbon curve of the atmosphere, it goes up and down every summer and goes down every winter. And that's just normal with things that are, the leaves fall from the trees, they rot, and the carbon returns to the atmosphere.
Neil, anything,
So it's
any
carbon
thoughts on this
neutral.
presentation? Thanks, Mike.
That wasn't the question, though. I mean, the question was about methane.
Yeah, it's whether composting causes methane to go in the atmosphere. That is true, but it also, in the next year, when you grow the food again, it will pull the carbon out of the atmosphere. Is a carbon heating and everything like that, but it'll draw enough carbon and the element out of the atmosphere when you regrow the food next year that it's neutral. It's heating neutral.
Whether composting
How much
creates.
water-
Hang on 1 second, let's one at a time.
Whether composting creates methane or carbon dioxide depends on whether it's anaerobic or aerobic, or whether you do hot composting or slow composting. So you can't just say a blanket statement. But wherever you have a living organism, it's going to generate carbon dioxide. Even plants generate carbon dioxide at nighttime. So.
Rita's a scientist at UCSD, so she knows a little bit about that.
We get that.
Neil, do you have any comments?
Well,
on that?
no, that's right. Yeah, it depends on if it goes anaerobic or aerobic, and that's why you manage compost piles.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay, Jacqueline, thank you so much. It was a great job.
If everybody would advance their slides 12 again.
Hi, my name is Paula. I grew up in South Korea, but now I'm studying in Sacramento State University in mechanical engineering. So I'm not really familiar with environmental engineering, but that's where I'm kind of interested in right now to study more. So please, if you have any, if you have better ideas, or if I say something is not right, please correct me. And now I'm going to talk about how San Diego is doing and what we can do to make better San Diego. So I'll start with this graph. The graph projects the current demographic and waste generation per capita. That it will increase. It will continue to increase, and then the blue line, and then the red line represents with the gray population and waste, and then the gray line represents the scenario with the smaller and wealthier world population and environmental friendly consumption waste. The second slide here is showing the average waste disposal in San Diego County is declining since 2005, but it's still higher. The San Diego County average daily per capita waste disposal is still higher than California statewide average and surrounding counties. Here I want to introduce 8 R's, and I'm sure you're familiar with 3 R's already, which is recycle, reduce, and reuse. And now I want to introduce 5 new concepts if you haven't heard of it. So recover is it's a process of collecting, sorting, and transferring materials to reuse, recycle, and compost. And regift is you can share what you have, or you can donate what you have. Your repair, you can fix and then reform it instead of just throwing away when it's not working. And then refuse is you just say no to products what you don't need. It's a little bit hard. I know I have to admit that I sometimes buy stuff that I don't need when it's on sale because I feel like I need it sometimes. But actually, I have to think about before if I do really need it before thinking about it's on sale and stuff. So it's hard, but it's necessary to keep in mind. And then lastly, it's rethink. We have to think about what we do is affecting to our environment. So we need to connect our behavior to environments. And then I'd like to introduce food recovery in San Diego. The program There is currently 60 participants in it, and if the 50% of currently wasted food is donated, then we can create 666 tons of food that can go food bank, which creates 1.1 million meals, counting at 1.2 pounds per meal, which is 2.5 meals per day to 448,000 people. And eventually it will save up to $2.9 million. So this is what we certainly need to look at. And I like to introduce brown bin. It's one of the waste management program in Ireland, what they're doing. Using brown bins, it's basically for your food waste and green waste. And you can reduce 23% of amount of waste that goes to green bins by using brown bin. Also, a significant volume of waste goes to landfill as waste, food waste and green bins. So by using brown bin, we can reduce the waste. On slide 32 here, this is what you can put in brown bins. All the basically food waste that cannot go on green bins. So I think this is kind of related to the composting organic food waste that we can do in San Diego in the future.
Food garbage disposal, do they find them for all that waste?
Yeah, I believe they take the brown bins, I think like alternative week, not every week, but they do, I believe they do composite, not sure. And then this is vector composting in San Diego. City of San Diego committed to providing residents an easy and affordable composting resources and education. And this is what I found from their website, composting bin voucher program, and you can purchase one of 3 styles and then get discounts. So it's a deal if you like to composite in your backyard. They also provide master composter courses and free workshops. So if you are interested, you can go on the website and find more about it. And one of the big problem in waste, in terms of waste, is packaging. And I found that 100,000 tons of waste, or tons of packaging is used per year throughout the world, and more than 200,000 of food packaging is used and thrown away a year. For the first picture right here, just to pack these 5 little boxes, they use these big boxes for each to pack. And I think this is just a huge problem, since they can put all the boxes in one box, but it's not necessarily. And then here, I'm talking about reduction in packaging. Apple Store actually reduced 28% of packaging, and then that produced 60% of more boxes they can put in the airplanes, and save 747 flight here. So they did a good job on reduction of packaging. And then EcoPack Store is the company that I found for the packaging. They produce environmental friendly packaging and biodegradable packaging here. So this is what you can do to purchase better packaging. And then I want to address the plastic bag problems. Jacqueline mentioned it earlier in her presentation. And I have some statistics about plastic bags. Less than 5% of plastic grocery bags are recycled in the United States. And every square mile of ocean contains about 46,000 pieces of fluorine plastic bags. And it's a big deal in San Diego because San Diego is still close to ocean, and then we are known for beautiful ocean, and I feel like we are responsible to protect our ocean from plastic bags. And also plastic can take up to 1,000 years to break down, and it also threats to wildlife. And even the wildlife dies, it re-enters to the environment because it takes 1,000 years to break down. So what we can do, there is a city in San Francisco that bans plastic bags, and then Solano Beach in San Diego is the first city adopts plastic bag ban, and you can purchase a paper bag for 10 cents. And then when I went to Spain, they actually had a grocery reusable cart, and then they had like a little parking lot in the grocery store. So when you come in, what they do is they just put their grocery bag just like you park your car, and then they just go grocery shopping. And then when they come back, instead of using plastic bags, they put their items in the reusable bag. And I didn't see any plastic bags in Spain, especially in the store. And then I grew up in Korea. We do use plastic bags, but we do have to pay for it. So it's not a lot. It's probably like 20 cents. But then when you feel like you have to pay something, it just kind of like holds your back not to use it. It's not a lot, but then once it's free, you use it a lot. When you have to pay a little bit, you just don't use it. And then here in San Diego, since we don't have to use it, you overuse it. I feel like when I go grocery shopping, since it's so thin, if you have to put milk in it, you have to double bag it and even triple. And then when I come back home, I just have so much plastic bags in my house. I feel overwhelmed. I used to I tried to fold it and then use it as a trash bag. And that's me. And I know some of my friends, they just don't care about it because you can get it when you go grocery shopping again. So you just throw it away, and then that can cause this problem. So this is what we can, it's a small step, but it's what we can do here. And I have one more slide.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions about these particular slides, go ahead and ask them now. Otherwise, we're going to go on to the next 12 slides so that we can finish her presentation.
I just have a wise question. The number 666 struck me. I was just wondering, that's a sign of the devil.
Oh.
Getting cities to charge for plastic bags instead of banning them. Some people need plastic bags. But I think maybe you could charge like 1 cent or 2 cents or 3 cents the first year, and then double it the second year, and triple it, until pretty soon you get up to 25 cents a bag. The money could be used, go to the cities, a portion go to the cities, a portion go to the companies that, for their trouble of collecting the money and then distributing it. And then the rest of the money could be toward reducing the cost for cloth bags. So that instead of paying $10 for a cloth bag, you pay $5 and then $3 as the price of plastic bags go higher. What do you think of that?
That's a great idea.
All right, can everybody advance their screens?
Well,
Good question over here, Paul.
I see a lot of people using canvas bags in many of the stores I go into. And some of them are the store names, but many other ones are from, you go to any kind of exhibit shows, they give you a canvas bag, and I see people using those bags to put groceries in.
I think it's growing. I love to go to Trader Joe's and then they call me Trader Joe's bag, and I like to just hold it even though I don't go grocery shopping. But it's kind of, I understand it's hard because sometimes you forget. So maybe it's a good idea to just buy a couple of them and then put it in the car, and then just in case you forget it.
Anything else did you say? One more over here. Yeah, well, right here.
Comment. I was living in the Bay Area when they implemented the plastic bag ban and styrofoam bans. And there was a lot of discussion about how firmly the plastic bag industry pushed back against that. Money is spent of the capital campaigning against it. But it was really encouraging for me to see how quickly the store owners shifted over. And it wasn't just standard practice for them to throw your groceries in a bag.
Right.
They'd ask you, and incentivize you to not put it in that bag, because in some cities in the surrounding area, it was a quarter extra per bag to use that, and people quickly shifted to other means of transporting their goods. It was easy.
Right.
Okay, Paula, let's do your last slide.
Okay. So this is my last slide. I think he mentioned that San Diego plans zero waste by 2040. The goal is hope to recycle 100% waste by 2040, and the currently goal is like increase recycling rate from 68% to 75% by 2020, because Miramar landfill is almost full and it's scheduled to close in 2022. So this is what we should look at it, and then there's 4 sessions, but the first session is already passed, so I didn't put it. So there's 3 more sessions, and the second session is coming up. So if you're interested in, you can definitely look into more on their website. And I introduced a lot of easy steps and somewhat it's kind of hard or difficult steps that we can really do individually. But it's important to do something that you can do at your position. So just small little action that you can do can be a huge change in San Diego. So this was my presentation. And now Patrick is gonna talk about wastewater system.
Alright, good evening. My name is Patrick, and I was born in Hong Kong, so I grew up there. Moved here 6-7 years ago, and I go to San Diego State. My major is environmental engineering, and my topic is wastewater, but I know that it's not part of the solid waste. It's more of the water side, but it's also important to know how our San Diego's wastewater treatment is working, and the good side of our wastewater treatment and the bad side of it. So, here we have San Diego has 2 underground systems. So our sewage pipes they're actually separated from our storm drains. So it is always beneficial when it rains a lot, when it floods. Our sewage doesn't get affected as much, and so it doesn't back up, and our toilets, all that waste doesn't really affect us. And we've gone over this in week 4 during our water presentation, so you can go to our website and check that out. But moving on, wastewater, the definition of it is any water that is adversely affected in quality by anthropogenic influence. So that means like human activities, human influences. So right now, San Diego has 180 million gallons of wastewater per day, and it is assumed or projected that by 2050, we're going to have 340 million gallons of wastewater per day because of population growth mainly. And right now we have our main treatment plant in Point Loma, and also we have 2 water reclamation plants in North City and South Bay. So how wastewater and climate change basically influence each other. So this is a pretty typical wastewater treatment plant, the process of it. And this graph points out the potential greenhouse gas emission from different sources. And this house is amazing because I can use both screens at the same time. So I'm going to walk you through. So we have pumping stations and manholes throughout the city. and they basically emit methane and carbon dioxide. So when wastewater gets into the wastewater treatment plant, it's going through a screen first, so really big or bigger parts get they get blocked by the screen, and then you're gonna enter your first treatment, primary treatment, and what it really is basically a tank, and it is used for basically sedimentation. And we can see that this treatment doesn't really have any greenhouse gas emission because you're just basically letting water, letting sediments to sink to the bottom of the tank. And then moving on, you're gonna have a aeration tank. So pretty much they put in oxygen and also biological substance. So they eat the waste or the chemicals. And after the second treatment, you're gonna have a biosolid called, or also known as sludge. And what engineers do, they basically reuse the sludge as activated sludge. So they move it back here, so it makes the whole second treatment, the whole biological much faster the next time that they do it. But you have to notice that they have emission secondary treatments because of carbon reaction. You have methane gas coming from secondary treatment, mainly from anaerobic treatment processes. One of the ladies that talked about it. Also in advanced treatment plants, so basically after secondary treatment, now factories or companies, they want to have more purified water or wastewater. So they're gonna add in more nitrification or denitrification. So you get nitrous oxide from all those different steps. And we've seen that from Jacqueline's that these are really harmful gases, greenhouse gases. And our Point Loma wastewater treatment plant is a little bit different because we don't have a secondary treatment because we have a really advanced primary treatment, and we actually have received a waiver from the secondary treatment in 2010. I don't know if we added another one in more recent time. Point Loma wastewater treatment plant currently it can treat up to 240 million gallons per day. And one really interesting thing to point out that the methane gas that is removed from the digesters, they're actually all collected and they convert them into energy by cogeneration. So the plant, energy-wise, is actually self-sufficient. We can see it from this graph. It's a little bit different from the typical treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants. We have a primary clarifier here. So after the first sedimentation, it adds in chemicals. Also, it helps to bond all the substances together, so basically they sink faster. So like I said, we have a cogeneration gas station. So we actually capture all the CH4 and we burn them as energy. We have sludge left after wastewater treatment, like those activated sludge. What we do in San Diego, we moved it to a center called Metro Biosolids Center. And what those sludge is good for, it's basically they're really good soil fertilizers. Right now, we're using them as soil amendments, landfill cover. I don't know if they sell them back for profit or they use them for a better backyard or like for farms, agriculture, but they're really good for the soil. Also, this is a facility that uses cogeneration. So basically, it provides its own energy. So these are the really good things about San Diego's wastewater treatment plant. So on the opposite side, some potential problems that we may face in the future. So right now, North City and South Bay provides around 45 million gallons of wastewater. They can treat 45 million gallons of wastewater. Plus Point Loma, you have 285. But like I said earlier, it's 340 million due to population growth. So that could be a problem in the future. Do we build another wastewater treatment plant, or do we use less water, or we really need to do something about it. And also another thing is San Diego and Mexico border. Unlike Vegas, what happens in Tijuana doesn't necessarily stay there. Sewage spill. A lot of sewage that we don't want to see. They actually get when heavy rains happen, they get flooded. Their sewage system is not as well as ours, and basically they provide a lot of sewage. And I believe Ocean Beach, Imperial Beach, and La Jolla, they're around per year they're closed for like 40 days. And that's a bad thing because San Diego is always known for awesome beaches and stuff.
Patrick, there needs to be some clarification about that because La Jolla is closed because of seals in La Jolla Castle Pool, which is not anthropogenic. So La Jolla is pretty much beaches all the time. Ocean Beach is closed sometimes because of Dog Beach and the San Diego River. And there's a little bit of misunderstanding, perception about the Tijuana sewage too. Basically, unless they have a sewage spill, just like we have a sewage spill, basically their system is very much better than it used to be. There's 2 water reclamation plants down there, and the sewage that's the water, the quality issues in Imperial Beach are likely from water that's coming from their outfall moving upshore from that. So there's and regarding the 340 million gallons per day versus 285, there's currently a plan that's being brought forth to take, I think it's 85 million gallons a day of that sewage water, building another plant that will take that off and turn it into pure water that can be used in as potable drinking water.
Awesome. Yeah.
So that's the plan for addressing
that. I know that there's a team, Tijuana Valley recovery team, that they actually say that Tijuana they have cleaner wastewater than San Diego.
I was the founding chairman of that team, so
awesome.
So I know. Yeah.
So moving on, these couple of slides, it's basically a resiliency plan adopted in New York City because of Hurricane Sandy. So what we can learn from this whole plan is that they're actually preventing a 100-year floodplain, and they're predicting for a 30-inch sea level rise. I know that we have a climate action plan in San Diego, and we're basically forecasting that that we'll have a 12 to 18 inch sea level rise. So we can learn from this. Actually, I want to move on to different my next slides, my next set.
So if everybody will advance their slides another 12. All right, looks like we've got it. You want?
So in the plan, so this is what happened. 315 million is what is going to require for protection, basically from another Hurricane Sandy. If they don't do anything about it, if another Hurricane Sandy comes, it's going to cost 1.1 billion to repair, to do all the dirty work after that. And over 50 years, it's going to cost them 2.5 billion. So what they come up with is that it's always good to plan ahead to, locate the risk that each city has and just have plans for it. So what I believe is that San Diego, in terms of water, we should have our own, like a plan or a project or whatever. So we can know how old our piping systems or our wastewater system and water systems, how old they are, and if they're really vulnerable to climate change. What happened in New York was 562 million gallons of untreated and diluted sewage mixed into stormwater and seawater, and it's just disgusting, honestly. Yeah. So when I said when I talked about protections and stuff, which they want to spend 315 million on, they're talking about these different designs that will help them to better prepare for future floods. You have elevate equipment, so basement doesn't flood. So if you have a power supply, then it's better to have it elevated, flood-proof, install a static barrier, steel building, sandbag, and install backup power. These are just what they have done to protect their city. I think we have to come up with a plan to protect our city, and we can see it from 2050. Our Mission Beach by that time is projected to be flooded, basically the whole area. So what do we do about it now? Do we just deal with it? Do we make these different designs, or do we move out of it? It's a really important subject to talk about. At the very end, I just want to, these two slides are actually from our fourth week water system. They talked about treating wastewater and making it to tap water. And also we have advanced water purification facility. So if you guys want to know more, because we have already talked about it, you can go online, go back to our website. Here I added a system called gray water system. And what gray water is, it's basically untreated household water, or wastewater, which has not come into contact with toilet waste. So that includes washing machine, the water from that shower, right? And so how it works is you have a system built in inside your house, and you have a filter. So I believe if you only have a one-way system, let's just say you have your washing machine that's plugged into the system, then you don't actually need a permit or anything. And then you have the filter that filters out certain chemicals, and then the water is used to basically for irrigation. But the thing is, for gray water, there's only certain chemicals and certain soap or certain things that you can only use. Some shampoo or anything could harm your soil or your plants. So, but this is really.
Your body.
Oh, what's up?
Your body.
Yep. So, it is a way that can save water, save energy. It's something that we should move towards too. So this is my conclusion slide. I just want to say that waste system, climate change doesn't affect waste system directly, but if you think about the things that we consume, the things that we produce, the useless things that we have, then we're actually spending more energy on something that we don't need. So that includes water. We're wasting water. We're wasting energy because of the food that we don't need. So it's a whole system. They're tied together. Energy, water. If we don't do one thing, then the climate change is gonna get worse in the future. And if we don't this thing, then it's all connected basically. Just want to summarize. Paul talked about different recycle strategies and composting, and also toilet to tap water. So yeah, thanks. And these are hosts and sponsors, hosted by the World Resources Center and sponsored by Genie, and these are our partners. Thank you.
Any specific questions for Patrick? Then I'd like Emil and maybe Ken to have a few comments, then we'll take overall questions until we close. Any special questions for Patrick?
Yeah, in NPR there's a show called Radio Lab, and there's an episode of Poop Train where we talked about biosolids from New York City, and how a lot of the foods we ate throughout the 90s, particularly wheat, were New York City's biosolids put on our crops. And a lot of the discussion afterwards was how pharmaceuticals and heavy metals and things like that were included in the biosolids and thus introduced into our food cycle. I'm wondering if you've discovered any advancements in how to remediate that, or if that kind of thing is being done in the use of soil amendments here in San Diego.
Maybe let's ask Neil to answer that question. You may know something about that, Neil, I think.
Well, certainly that's a big discussion. We're talking about not only just with management of biosolids. There was a slide, and Patrick, I thought you did a very nice job of explaining the wastewater treatment system and where we are with our treatment. But we do we take the biosolids, and now because of studies where we were concerned about biosolids use on foods, really not allowed to manage these biosolids on food crops anymore. So the EPA has set up a system for characterizing pathogen kills on biosolids in that. So, for example, some of the biosolids that's generated here in San Diego is not going to food crops, but it's actually going for cotton plants. So we're taking them out, putting them on cotton plants, and that's helping, with nutrients to grow them better and also reduce the water. So there has been a recognition of concerns about pathogens, pharmaceuticals. That's one of the issues that we'll hear a board talk about as we look at direct and indirect potable reuse of water. The technologies are getting so much better on the filtration of those materials out of the water stream, but it's a concern.
Michael.
Ray Paulson, who left earlier, he couldn't stay. He had a couple of comments. One is, I don't know what the current state of pyrolysis is, which is, I guess, very high temperature incineration. He says that the Royal Navy, when it returns to port, it only has 1% of all of its waste. That consists of ash and ceramic, and all the rest is segregated at source. So I didn't know if you had any knowledge or any comments on that.
Neil, yeah?
I'll take a crack at that. You know, as an industry, we're trying to reduce the amount of waste that we're producing and seeing ways to harness energy. I mentioned that the larger waste incinerations and mass burns we're not moving rapidly for those, but they are looking at waste streams that we can either do with pyrolysis or gasification. And everyone, what that is you're taking organic, charging it at a much higher temperature than what you see in just a mass burn. And what you do is you release the gases, and they'll come off, and you can then recapture that carbon and use it as a fuel. The issue that we have as an industry, and let me just now say I applaud each of you for your presentations. I really think it's interesting how we're, one of the biggest things we have to face as a culture is education and getting people educated on our waste streams and how to maybe segregate them. The issue with pyrolysis or gasification is trying to identify waste streams that we can keep not contaminated. Because you get, that's why we're trying to separate batteries and different waste streams. So if you can identify a waste stream that won't have as many impurities, it's much easier to gasify, and you don't have to worry about the exhaust gases carrying mercury and sulfides and things like that. So what we're trying to do as an industry is to try to identify waste streams that will be pulled off and treated. So it's not going to be on large scale. I mean, there was some discussion earlier about composting. That plays a role. And we're going to be trying to look at smaller ways to manage our waste. But, it goes to what each of you are talking about, getting that education out to the public, to the 8 R's. I like that. We always think about the 3 R's, the 4 R's, but 8 R's, those are the things we need to start getting education on, so we can get a better handle on our waste stream. But I think that's the route that many of the developers are looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Ken, did you have any thoughts you'd like to
Yeah,
share
I
with us?
wanted to kind of circle back on the solid waste and recycling related presentations. And just to help frame things and see how things put it into perspective here for San Diego. In the city of San Diego, in 2012, our recycling rate was 68%. Even with that, 1.3 million tons of waste were disposed in the landfill. We just did a very detailed scientific study of the waste stream and categorized that waste. Of that, 39% of our disposed waste, so 39% of 1.3 million tons that goes into landfills is organic. Of that, of the whole waste stream that's being disposed, 15% is food waste. So that's 190,000 tons of food waste. And then if you just look at leaves and grass on top of that, that's another 7%. So those are all materials that are really easy to compost, whether you do it aerobically or through anaerobic digestion. That's easily recoverable, and much more of that stream is easily recoverable. And so, that's organics are the largest component of our waste stream. That's not even talking about your typical blue bin materials. There's about 20% of that going into the overall waste stream of those materials. But the big thing with the organics is keeping it out of the landfill. There is a process, in a possibility with composting, in aerobic composting, there can be some CO2 emissions, not normally methane emissions, or at least in large scale. The key though is when it goes into a landfill, it's off-gassing and starting to generate methane as it's into an anaerobic setting. it's starting to generate methane right away. So even with aggressive methane recovery systems, you're still not capturing all that methane that's there. So even while the trash is actively being buried, there's methane there. So that's one of the reasons that landfills are large generators of methane. So the more we can keep from putting it into a landfill, the better. Just one example, we're dealing with a landfill the city is dealing with. It's been closed for 40 years, and this year they're doing a $12 million project on it just to deal with regrading related to settlement, sealing the surface, maintaining the surface, and also upgrading and maintaining the methane collection system. So it's an ongoing burden that'll be here. I mean, 40 years and it's still cranking. So that's one thing. I just had a couple other just real quick points. With our zero waste process, just one last thing, just to get to 75% recycling by 2020, we're looking at over 300,000 tons of more recyclables out of the landfill. So even at that, we'll still have 1 million tons getting buried. And we're doing, as a large city, we're doing a very good job overall as far as our recycling rate. But there's that much more to be done, and as it's been echoed and said many times, and Neil hit right on it, it all comes down to the education. And so, one quick plug for our zero waste process. We really want to hear from the stakeholders, because it really comes down to everyone being part of the solution. So, if you're interested, definitely let me know, please. And thank you so much, too.
I have a question. I hadn't heard about that brown bin concept for composter. How tough would it be to do something like that?
Well, there's a lot of cities, we do composting, food waste composting with commercial settings, the large venues, the restaurants, and places like that. A number of jurisdictions will do it as part of their yard waste collection program, and they'll put food waste in with it and take it for composting, and that's something that we would look to pilot. We're challenged by not having direct fee for service for our single family homes, but it's something that we're hearing from our stakeholders that they'd like to see, and we may even pilot it in a biweekly process. And it just as another way to get it out of the landfill.
Can you put it in your greens can?
Technically, it's something where in our program it would be your vegetative debris. Say if it was still part of attached to the orange tree, say. Technically, I mean the realistic thing is if you're putting your vegetative material, your apples and things like that, they could be. It's part of the composting program, and so it could be composted. We don't really at this point we're not.
What we're saying is no, and let me take this.
Yeah.
With Republic Service, we're trying that right now.
Okay.
We have we service Chula Vista, but it comes down to an education program. So what we're doing is we started a small part of the community where we've gone out to about 500 homes and put out an education program. So here's what we want to see you place in your green waste container. But then we had to make some modifications where we compost, because composting can cause odors, and we don't want to have odors. Odors, one, if you're smelling it, that's an organic, so that's a greenhouse gas. So what we're trying to do is we're actually we're taking that material, grinding it, and introducing it into a compost row that we've already begun composting. And the thinking is that activity will more rapidly break down that organic. So we are trying that. The city does a nice job when you bring in clean food waste into their program, and they'll work that in and do composting there. So we're trying it, but again, we have to do it in a manner that doesn't cause problems.
And one overarching consideration is with anything, clean material in comes to clean material out and quality out. And so there's some other jurisdictions that will look at mixing everything into one bin and then trying to get out the organics or trying to get out this or that. And the quality suffers, and especially when you look at an organic product that you're going to potentially put onto crops or into your neighborhood, into your yard. You really want to have a high quality product that is going to benefit the soils and be good and clean.
Kim brought up something that for San Diegans should know, and that is that trash pickup is free in the city of San Diego because of an ordinance called the People's Ordinance in 1919 that restricted the city from ever charging for collecting trash without, what, 2/3 vote of the city council, I guess, what it
Of the
takes.
public.
Of the
Of
public,
voters.
public, excuse me. And that has been a handicap in many ways of how to pay for and expand services, because it has to come out of the general fund, and you all know what the economics of the cities have been in recent years. It's 8 o'clock. I don't want to let anybody who asks questions to let those questions go, but if you got to get out of here, we promise to get you out of here at 8. But if there are any questions, we'll still take them. So before we do that, though, let's have a big hand for our band. And to Neil and Ken for bringing their expertise with us. Thank both of you. And now, we got a couple
Yeah, I'd like
questions.
to make two comments. My father used to be assistant commissioner of the water department in New York City, and one of you had a slide about New York. What you forgot is New York has the best water system in the world because the reservoirs, Ashokan and Croton, we have taken the Amtrak up to Albany, the Croton Harbor Station. They're big reservoirs. They're high above New York City. So they have gravity-fed aqueducts, huge ones. The pipes are as big as this room. That's what brings the water to New York. So global warming won't affect us. Just make a comment to whoever put that on. But I'd like to advertise again what I do is there's a way to get rid of CO2 and methane. You make solid-state carbides. It's called carborundum. They used to use, if all the women here take out their nail files, you'll notice it's not bright, it's not nice, white, shiny. They're brownish. Some guy, probably Jewish, in 1880 discovered you could adulterate powdered sapphire, which is corundum, for grinding with charcoal, and invented carborundum. There's a company in Tonawanda, New York. Niagara Falls was built to power it to make machine guns and tanks for World War I and World War II. So you can take huge amounts of CO2 and methane. The problem is not the carbon. The problem is that it's a gas, and you can make it into a solid state. Tungsten carbide would take a nuclear weapon to get the carbon out. It melts at 8,000 degrees centigrade. So basically, and it's a valuable, saleable, marketable material. Right? Go into any machine shop, speak to people who use GE Carbon inserts that cost $500 a piece. That's what they cut with on lathes, and there's needs for trillions of those in the world as people are manufacturing. Now, this can't get rid of carbon in the back of automobiles. You'd have to just basically compress the gas and sell it. But a central person can react it simply. If you Google my name and put in blowpipe mineralogy, I run this stuff as a Cub Scout. This is how they used to prospect and assay minerals before they had wet chemistry. Just look it up online, blowpipe mineralogy.
Thank you for the advertisement.
I have a question. As long as we have the subject matter expert here, what about heavy metals and e-waste? How are those handled, and what is the best way for us to separate out those, like batteries? Because there's going to be a lot more of that in the future.
E-waste, anything that has a plug, don't throw it away. We have a program to recycle it. City has collection centers. Most of the cities within the county have collection points. At the landfills, we have collection points where we'll pull out any type of electronics, and that's sent off for recycling. So they're pulling a lot of the plastics off and recycling the plastics, harnessing some of the metals before off of that. I don't know if you want to talk about what the city's doing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think one of the key things in all the settings is making it convenient. We try with the resources we have. Say for example, for the household hazardous waste from the residents, and that would include your universal waste, your bulbs, your batteries, things like that. And so a lot of people will follow that, but the challenge is for the everyday person that's busy and what to do with their battery is the last thing on their mind, or one of the last. How to get it to them to properly dispose of it. And
I just don't want it sent to China or India and put into somebody else's waste stream where some poor kid from third world country ends up, slaving away and digging through it. I'd rather keep it here in San Diego. If we're using it, we should take responsibility for it.
Isn't there some event right tomorrow or this weekend? City or county is having some waste collection thing of what you're talking about, right? Either tomorrow or Saturday.
There's a lot of, I don't know specifically about a county event, but there are a lot of events throughout the county that are private companies, especially for electronic waste. Those happen all the time. The city occasionally does events for like auto products, oil, batteries, things like that. One of the things that we've heard a lot from our stakeholders, and you see it in a lot of other jurisdictions, is pushing, whether it be at a local level or possibly more important at the state or federal level, looking for ways to ensure responsibility, say from the manufacturers, and having take-back programs, and with the batteries, the bulbs, your sharps, your other pharmaceutical things, and I'm going a little off topic from the metals and that, like with the electronics and that, but for these problem items that are really difficult and expensive to manage, finding ways to get it to where it's convenient to take back, that it's handled properly, and if it was handled locally, that would be even
Yeah, I mean, cradle to grave.
Yeah,
one of the things we
absolutely.
didn't talk about was zero waste and cradle to grave design, and that's something that I think we need to work on hugely, because I can't take this apart and put in new batteries and everything and put it back together. It has to be horribly melted down, and then it's a glob of all kinds of bad stuff. So.
I have one question before I forget, though, before everybody else leaves. I want to thank our team, Mike Russell, Paul Michael Decker, and Cameron, and one more.
Also, I want to note that we're streaming this online, and Peter is watching from Canada, so he's been commenting on the Ustream site all the time. So,
thank you, Peter. Okay, we have a question over here.
I have a follow-up question to what Michael asked. The e-waste ending up in India or China. That's what is happening now. The reason is, I read somewhere that it's cheaper to ship it to India rather than recycling it here. So I don't know what can be done to reduce the cost of recycling right here, or probably recycle it in India, but how do we reduce the cost in general? Recycle.
The challenge is, the materials flowing to places that typically have lower costs of labor, say in those settings. So I think one element would be, if you had take-back programs, that the manufacturers were responsible for, then they're having to, directly deal with the product and not have others end up being ultimately responsible for it.
There's another element to that too, and one is that the ships they're bringing a lot of stuff over here for us, and they're going back empty. So they're really cheap to put anything on a ship to China right now, because they're basically really going back empty.
Yeah, and for the non-hazardous commodities, for your fiber, your metals, your other plastics and things, it flows, especially to the Pacific Rim, China and the Pacific Rim. That's where the demand is, where many of our products are being made.
Well, if it's cheap, it's good. But the thing is, what's happening right now is they handle those equipment without using any masks or anything. They burn it and try to, in unscientific ways, and it's polluting the water and the air and everything. So probably if you think it's cheap to send it there, probably the companies here need to invest there and train the people there, to recycling.
Yeah, I think it is. It's a huge issue, and you'll see more and more large companies, like when we pull all of our recycling out, we actually audit the disassembler. We'll go out, and we just won't. Once we accumulate this material, we won't just send it out, because you're concerned, or we're concerned for that type of processing. So we actually have an audit process to go out and audit where they're recycling. What we're trying to see here in California now, Cal Recycle is working very hard to try to get reprocessing, and we're talking a lot about taking organics out of the waste stream. Just from the presentations we saw, 15% food, 40% organics. That is a large portion of waste. But we're going to pull it out, and we don't have systems ready to process it. So right now, Cal Recycle is trying to look at putting seed money out through grants to try to encourage development of processing facilities right here. So we get anaerobic digesters and we get composting operations. They're looking at that for the electronic goods right now, trying to keep that here and process those materials here. There's one up in Orange County that we're using for disassembling. So I think the awareness is going to be driving corporations and should be driving cities and communities to really ask that question: how is this material getting processed?
Yeah, right here, yes. You first, and then I got you, brother.
I was really impressed with the international representation of the presenters tonight. I And I was hoping for more of international representation of solutions that have already been tried and true the world over that San Diego may be implementing. In my travels, I've seen Germany using buyback programs or leasing programs with products that has been entirely successful. Seen Japan where there's fining programs for people in their waste streams if they don't sort their products at the curb. There's a tremendous amount of financial incentive for people to get that right. And a whole cultural undercurrent of people encouraging each other to do that because of it. To Barcelona, where access is supreme. Every couple blocks in the city, you can push down with your foot to open up a bin, and there's several different containers for different types of recycling and sorting. It seems like there's a lot of these solutions out there the world over. San Diego just needs to maybe have the conversation with some of these other stakeholders and start implementing these programs, because clearly the need is there.
Thank you. Yeah.
You said you did a trash study, and just for how well we're doing, I was wondering, did you look at what percentage of the recyclables that could go in the blue bin actually ended up in the landfill? Was there any look at that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And by the different streams, whether it's overall or single family, multifamily, commercial, we looked at it. Generally it varies between the stream, but if you just looked at your blue bin commodities, it's in the range of about 16 to 19 or so percent. Depending on the sector. And you think of that on the overall waste stream of 1.3 million tons disposed, it's a sizable tonnage. And so just the people doing a better job of putting the stuff in their blue bin at home or at work would make a huge difference.
Any other questions? Well, let's have one last round of applause for our presenters.